Welcome to my review of Jaws for the NES. This is an LJN game that gets shit on a lot, but I think it's probably one of the better games that came out from LJN, because, I mean, they released so many shitty fucking games. So I think this is one of the better ones that they published. And that's not saying a lot. I think this is a very, this is like the definition of a mediocre and average game. I would say that this is, basically, when you think of an average game, just a really average, mediocre kind of game, then this would be the kind of game you would think of. It really embodies that. But it's a very simple game, and, it's almost a little bit enjoyable, you know what I mean? Even though, it's really not a bad game. It's just very, very simple, kind of boring, and, there's not much to it at all. And if you beat it once, there's not really a reason to replay it, unless you just want to replay it, but it doesn't really offer much. So you have these bonus stages where you got to bomb jellyfish, and by doing so, depending how many you kill, I believe you get some shells as a bonus, and you will use these shells as currency to power up your, I believe it's your tracking ability or something like that. And by doing so, for whatever reason, your power goes up, your power level goes up, and when that power level goes up, you can do more damage to Jaws and to the baby shark. So, the baby shark, I believe, is just an optional shark that shows up sometimes that you can kind of kill. But then there's Jaws himself, which has his health bar always on the bottom right of the screen. So you want to get those shells, but you can also collect them by killing jellyfish and killing enemies and grabbing the shells as they fall out of the enemies. So the idea is to collect tons and tons of shells, and then you're going to go to these upgrade stations. And as you're driving to these upgrade stations, you may get a random encounter, RPG style, where, you just randomly get attacked and you get drawn into the ocean, and then you got to do one of these scenes where you just shoot at fish. And the most dangerous thing about shooting at the fish is that if you're on the bottom of the screen, stuff can come up from the floor and hit you since you don't have much room to react. So that's the most dangerous part of the game when trying to collect shells. And that's the only challenging part of the game, aside from trying to actually stab Jaws at the very end, is really fucking awkward to do. But I do have a tutorial on this game, and I will link that. And that will explain the whole process of how you have to power up. But it's basically going back and forth between the two stations on both ends of the screen. And as you do so, you're going to get into random encounters. And sometimes Jaws will appear. Most of the time, you're just fighting stingrays and jellyfish. You have some bonus stages like you saw where you bomb stuff with the plane, and you'll get more shells that way depending on your performance. But you're mostly going to get shells by killing stuff and grabbing them, as you see me doing here. And of course, the more power, you see I'm only at power level 2, I can barely damage Jaws. That's Jaws I'm shooting at right there, and you can barely take any of his health down. And the thing is, you do have a limited amount of time to strip all of Jaws' health. He'll only stay on screen for so long. So if your power level isn't high enough, you're just not going to be able to damage him in time before he leaves. So that's the idea. And when he comes back, I believe his health is still where it left off last time, but you may not encounter him that often. I mean, the fight against Jaws himself is extremely easy. All you do is just move out of the way and fire from a distance. And eventually, you see my power level is now at 4, so you're going to see as I grab more shells, of course I'm editing this heavily. It's a really short game, though. I think it might be beatable in maybe 15 minutes or something, but I don't remember exactly. But it is a short game when you know what to do. But the very last part is very irritating, because if you don't stab Jaws, then you have to keep redoing the swimming parts again and again until Jaws comes back and you damage him again. So it's a pain in the ass. But it's really not a hard game. It's just kind of tedious. So you see I'm at power level 5 now. I'm doing a little bit more damage. His health is going down more, but it's not great. And that's the baby shark, which is kind of just an optional shark that drops some shells. But the big one is Jaws. And you see I can at least get his health down maybe halfway or so, but it's not, it's still not good enough. So you're going to want to keep upgrading your power to a certain point to where you'll be able to get all of his health down. And once you do that, you go into a final sequence. So that's the idea. I'm not sure if I had enough time to do it with power level 5, but we'll see. It might be power level 5 might be good enough. I just don't remember because I haven't played in a few years. But I do cover all that in the tutorial. It looks like power level 5 may be good enough. You can get higher power levels, but you may not need them. So once all of Jaws' health is exhausted, now you go into a final sequence where you have to stab him with the front of your ship. And the hit detection is really fucking weird. I don't understand it at all. It feels really random. I even tried to measure it on the screen, and I was using save states to try to see exactly where the positioning I had to get was. But no matter what, it usually takes me a while to get the stab. I think I got lucky there. I'm not sure if I got that on my first try on that sequence. But if you fail it, if you take too long and you fail it and you're unable to stab Jaws, then you will have to do the swimming sequences over again and drain Jaws' health again until you get that sequence again. And you just keep repeating that sequence until you're able to stab Jaws. And that's the entire game. It's really, for me, it's a 5 out of 10. I wouldn't say it's a shitty game, but it's definitely not good. It's a really average, mediocre game. Let me know if you have any questions, and thanks for watching.